All right, all right, all right. We are back once again with the ill behavior. Hey, are men falling behind? Part two. We ain't gonna mess around. We're gonna jump right back into it.
Men are falling behind in society. I just think, we have amazing men here today. It's an honor
Thank
to be
you.
on this
I
panel
barely
with
know it.
you.
I like to point out everybody seems to know this to be a fact. Okay, everybody sat down. We all know that men are falling behind in society right now.
To see this masculine energy. However, I know that men are not able to be men anymore because of the feminists, modern feminists.
And I'm sorry, this woman right here, she was just trying to be politically correct. There is no masculine energy sitting at that table. I'm just saying.
Propaganda.
Actually, she probably has more masculine energy than most of these dudes do.
And I coach
saying.
men in my practice, and they tell me, like, I don't even know what I can do on a date anymore. Can I ask a woman out? Am I going to get in trouble for this now? Like, I really like her. I kind of want to put my hand around her waist, but maybe that's going to, I'm going to be all over social media, this kind of thing. And I think men don't have the balls anymore to just stand up and be a man, be dangerous, be fierce.
I want to respond to a lot of what you
Respond,
said.
please.
Does anybody else want?
You make a really interesting point. However, I feel like a lot of the reasons why men can't actively express masculinity in a positive way is because of the patriarchal structures that we have.
That's hella funny coming from a woman. Men, do you feel like the reason why you can't express your masculinity is because of the patriarchy? Man, I don't even know what the hell to say about that. That just sounds so crazy to me. No, that isn't why you men can't express masculinity. It's because of feminism. It's because our entire society is built for women and now is being governed by leftists and all these participation trophy winners, right? And you can be and pick and do and choose and whatever, da 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 da. Like it, if you are a masculine man, if you have traditional masculine traits, okay, then you are shunned, you are shut down. I mean, let's just start off in kindergarten, in grade school, okay? The boys and girls are treated way different, okay? Girls are they are pedestalized, they are encouraged, they are empowered, okay? They have more attention, right, is paid to them. Boys are sedated, right? They're put on medications, right? They're told they can't, the way that they act is not acceptable, right? They are forced to learn in a manner that is not conducive to the male experience, right? And they are told that, things like sit down, it's not your turn, you've had your turn, let the girls go, or don't express yourself in that manner because it's offensive, or this happens at a very, very young age, right? Like at a very young age, and only gets completely just exploded as kids get older. Sorry, this, I don't know if you guys can hear this. My Roomba is going, the iRobot thingy. So if it's in the recording, I'm sorry. It'll stop in a couple minutes, I'm sure. And hopefully you guys can't hear it because I got the gate on. But back to my point, like as you go through, from grade school, you go into high school, right? Shop classes are gone, auto hobby is gone, all the let's just call it the woodworking classes and such are dumbed down, right? Like these things are not part of the standard curriculum anymore. And instead you got computer class, you got, various language courses, you've got sociology stuff or whatever, you know what I mean? And then you get into college where every class is structured around women. All the learning is structured the way women learn, right? Like listening to lectures for 5 hours with a teacher not even sitting there, right? Like these are not conducive to men's learning experiences. That's not how we operate. Most men, okay, a lot of men do, and I'm not saying that men can't. I mean, we, you know, obviously we will conform which way that we have to, but men tend to be more hands-on. You know, most men, if you give them a book and tell them, okay, this is how you do something, like if we absolutely need to, we can follow that book and then we can make it happen. But if you just give us the thing and say, hey, you know, we figure this part out, like we gonna get there, and the experience might not be as educational. Okay, I'm not trying to compare the two in that facet, right? You might not get as much information out of doing it yourself, but the experience for men tends to be better, right? So we just learn differently. But when colleges now are so focused on, you know, women's studies and geopolitical blah blah blah, and you know, all inclusive this and that, you know what I mean, like all these things, right? You have all that, so now you have more women going to college and more women completing college, right? Less and less and less men are going to college, and of the men who are going to college, less of them are graduating, right? And the push for trade schools, I mean, right now, you're hearing about a little bit more, especially in these men's spaces, you know, electricians, HVACs, plumbers, road workers, like these are all things that society needs. They are good paying wages, and they're awesome career paths. However, we have just shunned all these people who have been working this. The men who built the countries, right? Like the construction workers, the auto workers, the coal miners, the offshore oil drill, you know, whatever. Like the men who have done these jobs are not sexy, right? You come home, you got the calloused hands, you're covered in grease, you've been gone for weeks, you are physically just whooped, you know what I mean? Maybe you smell, right? Like these things are not sexy, and instead entrepreneurial shit, or you know, crypto millionaire, retail, this or that, automotive, you know, flipper, this or the whatever, scammer, you know. You know what? I never heard scammer listed as an occupation so much in my life as I have in the last 2 years. The last 2 years, people outwardly say it like it's a badge of honor. And I mean, I'm not saying people didn't scam people, you know, throughout history, but oh my God, like, am I the only one? Maybe it's just because YouTube promotes that crap, but it's just so weird to me. Anyways, so these trades where men thrive and flourish are not sexy. Women don't find them sexy. They're not promoted on TV and movies and this and that in any kind of positive manner, right? And so less men are doing them. And you know, this is becoming a problem, right? These spaces are not conducive anymore to masculinity, and that the patriarchy, that's hilarious, but it makes sense who it came from, right? Like, I'm just saying, I'm not trying to talk shit, but I'm just saying. Like,
I'm coming from with this is I'm trans. So I was born female. Now I present as male. I came out socially and medically transitioned at 18.
Okay.
The feminist movement is what helped.
I like this person's. I'm gonna give them a shout out right here. Not this wasn't on purpose. I just really, actually, genuinely like what they just said. I was born a female, transitioned, and now I present as male. Okay, she didn't say I'm a man now. She said I present as male, and so that's how we'll just call him he. I'm assuming that's what he wants to be called. That's how he is living his life now as a male. And like I said, you're fooling everybody, bro. This is what the modern man looks like. So you're blending right in. Kudos, good on you. I mean, you're doing what you want to do.
Helped me feel empowered enough to be who I am and be a man.
And no disrespect to your process. I know it's a very strenuous thing that you go through, but I see a woman still. I feel feminine energy.
Yeah, she's right. You do feel feminine energy, but this could easily be a man. The other men who are sitting next to her, him, they, whatever, um, I guarantee you're feeling the same energy from them, and you're definitely feeling the same energy from this dude, even though he weighs a whole 70 pounds more than this person, right? Like you're because this is this is what men are putting out nowadays.
From you.
They're putting out
That's
that.
all right. I
And
totally
so when you
respect
say
that.
you're a man, then it's like, I don't see that.
The way I think about it is more
You
like
saw
about
that
individual
before
choice
she
and
said
individual
something.
freedom. And if I want to say that I have feminine energy and people view me as masculine or vice versa, then that
You're not going to tell me you don't feel feminine energy from this guy. Like Alex, you're feeling feminine energy from this guy too, right? So the argument is, like I said, if this person, she, the one over here, didn't say that they were a woman, that they were trans or whatever from the beginning, you would have to really look. You'd have to be like looking for an Adam's apple or the lack thereof. You know what I mean? Like everything else looks like your standard dude coming out of college.
that's their problem. That's not my problem. And for me, that's what feminism is about giving people the choice to act in accordance with however the hell they want to.
But that's a
not how
very dangerous
feminism started.
society.
That's
to
not how
say.
feminism started, though. Yeah, we went from, wanting equal rights for women and equality for women, and now it's
Humanizing
kind of
women, right?
humanizing women,
Yes.
making it to where I think we all agree, women now are equal to men, and with like third and fourth wave feminism, especially fourth wave feminism, it's kind of turned into individuality, like you said.
It doesn't take a man to tell me how to be a man. It doesn't take a woman either. I can define myself as a man how I want to. I don't need somebody like Andrew Tate to be like, you're not a man unless you do this. I also don't need a woman to come up and be like, you're not a real man if you don't do this. And it's the same with femininity. I'm not gonna tell you how to be a woman. I don't think another woman should tell you how to be a woman either.
So what would you tell kids?
Yeah, like he has this. You have a daughter. Do
Yeah.
you really want to be guided by the ambiguous? Define yourself as however you want to define yourself, and for her mind to be molded and shaped by men who, no disrespect, women who turn themselves into men and then turn themselves back and say there's a lot of dissatisfaction when the root of the problem wasn't the gender, it was everything
There's
else.
actually
slow
very,
down, though.
very
I
low
feel like- Yeah,
I
rates
looked at the
of
percentages.
detransitioning, but
I
that's
looked at
neither
the
here nor there.
percentages.
That's also a minority of the population.
Feels like you're bundling a lot of ideas, which makes it hard to respond. But
I disagree. I don't. She's not bundling a bunch of ideas, but I will say she's super zeroed in on the trans thing. Like this conversation doesn't have to be about trans. We know that there's a couple or whatever that's going on here. That's how they identify or whatever. But the point is like. Like she's trying to bring the argument back to that all the time, and I understand because she's passionate about it. She has her feelings, and it's a valid argument, right? She's saying, isn't life difficult enough, why would you want, if you had the choice, why would you want your kid growing up in a situation, in a society, in a world where all these extra hardships are thrown on them, I totally understand. But we're supposed to be talking about men, right? Like, why do we keep going back to this part of the conversation, right?
Because there's so much data to support
can you
these.
repeat what's the main question?
Do you
want me
want
to
your
answer?
daughter's mind to be formed and shaped by a society that tells her it's okay to be masculine and to be a man, and that she
Totally.
doesn't need a man, and that it's better off for her to be alone and put her career first and not have children?
I think it's more likely than not that she'll probably follow a more conventional path. If mine
So that was just a little way of sidestepping, like actually answering her question. It's a tough thing because she's right. Like women, I guess statistically speaking, the most unhappy demographic right now is women over 40 who earn over 70K and who are who don't have a family and are childless. I believe that is the most unhappy demographic. Running a close second, I believe, are men in some shape or form. But that is supposed to be the most unhappy demographic. Are there reasons that back this up that make a lot of sense? Absolutely, right? Because women are told their entire life that they should behave like men, and so if you spend this time behaving like a man, getting getting all the accolades, chasing the dream, chasing the money, chasing the status, chasing the clout, you unfortunately you that comes in order to achieve that and to get to those levels. You have to behave a certain way. You have to get it out the mud. You got to develop teeth. You got to take no BS. You got to get a backbone. You got this is what men have to do in order to get to that level, right? That's not a gender thing. That is a performance based achievement. Let's just call it like that. You know what I mean? You perform a certain way to achieve a certain level, right? And so, unfortunately, if a woman spends 20 years or whatever, 15, 20 years working to achieve that level, right? Her performance has to be of a certain type. So she has to have these traits, right? And then when you get to 35, 40 years old and you don't have a family, you don't have kids, you got these accolades or whatever, and you're like, okay, this is, I was told I do all this and then at the end I can have my cake and eat it too, right? So where's my man? Where's my family? And then all of a sudden you can't find a man, and you're having to explore other options for having children. That's when, that's the wall, right? That's the ton of bricks. That's the, oh my God, what did I do? Scramble, scramble, scramble time, right? Because inevitably you are going to have certain traits that you're basically becoming the man that you would want to marry. But if you become that man, then the man, that equivalent, that dude is not going to want to marry you, right? It's a problem. That's a problem, or can be a problem. Some women, hey, if this is what you want, you know what I mean? If these are the results that you're looking for, by all means, go get your sis. I think the problem is we don't tell people that. There aren't a lot of movies by Tyler Perry or any these producers or Disney, right, that show the lonely 40-year-old woman with with the penthouse apartment and the driver and the stock portfolio or whatever. Like, they don't show these women. They do sometimes. I see the doctors that work the crazy hours, but usually they have a very positive story. Usually somehow they manage to find what it is that they want, and that and but the this doesn't happen in real life. In real life, the woman ends up maybe settling, and then all these other problems occur, right? So it is what it is, right?
My daughter grows up and she wants to dress like a boy. Like, great. If she, for whatever reason, is experiencing gender dysphoria, like, we would navigate that together. But that, to me, it doesn't scare me. And I would all the more want to live in a world that...
I feel like that's sad, because
Why,
it's
though?
because my son, I encourage him. I say, you are to be, and I really don't care the backlash. You're supposed to be attracted to women. And I
Isn't that
tell
a lot
him,
of pressure?
and I tell
This is
no, and I ask him,
But what
who
if
are
he's not?
because life for transgender individuals, and my son's African American as well, is very freaking hard. I don't know if
Yeah,
we can swear. I'm sorry.
You can.
It's very hard. Do you know this to be true?
Asking people or putting pressure on your son or putting pressure on my daughter to not...
I just tell him.
Okay, but to not be their true self, if that's truly how they feel.
It's definitely pressure. Okay. I can't agree with her on this, right? Like, if you're telling your son, I don't know how old he is, but that he should be attracted to women, like that you're outwardly expressing this to him, that is a pressure, believe it or not. He's going to feel, and maybe he's going to be that way regardless, you know what I mean? But he's going to feel some kind of external force trying to solidify this particular position, right? Whatever that happens to be. Now, years ago, that pressure didn't really exist, in my opinion, because there weren't any options. Okay, it's not like you could go and just hit the buffet line on sexuality back in the day, right? And as a matter of fact, there were some serious consequences and repercussions if you were outside of the norm, right? If you're a man who liked women or you're a woman who liked men, you're good to go. If you're in the middle, there was a problem. Depending on how far back you got, determines how large the problem was. But the point is most boys behaved like boys and acted like boys and did boy things and grew up to be men and behaved like men and did men things because that's what they were brought up with and that's who was around them, right? Everybody that they look at and all their influences were this conforming type, whatever you want to call it, right? And I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying, like, now there are all these other things. And to be honest, I mean, my actual opinion is a lot of it is bullshit, right? This is just a way to pacify and to get society and people fighting over crap that really doesn't matter. Is so stupid most of the time. Like, why is this the hill that you're trying to die on about this is because you don't have nothing else to die for. Like, that's really what it boils down to. If we had some real issues going on in our world right now, none of this would even be a thing. The fact that we live in the freest, I'm in America, so the fact that we live in the freest country in the world, and people want to argue that it's not, I get to get on the internet and say damn near whatever the hell I want. Like, it's pretty damn free, okay? And I didn't even have to go and serve or do any of that to be able to do this. It just so happens I did, but most of y'all don't, right? Like, so, you're not putting in to receiving back, if you want to argue taxes for some of y'all, but that's about it, right? And even then you're getting other things for that. So I'm just saying, like, to sit here and say that our times are different, right? So he's going to feel some pressure. That's all I'm saying. Just to I like to debate both sides here. If I hear the BS, then I'm going to point it out. She's putting pressure on him. Now, do I believe that it should be this way, where there are so many options and everything is cool, and then nothing is cool? If everything is cool, then nothing is cool. And when kids are growing up, individuality is a big deal. Back in the day, it started with piercings or tattoos, slick back hair. Remember the greasers, right? Leather jackets, different kinds of cars or whatever, different, shoes, like you would get this look. You would do whatever you could to make, to individualize yourselves. And then it kind of progressed to colored hair, right? And now people were splitting their tongues or doing like, changing their eyes or whatever, tattoos all over the face, like maxing out. Okay, so now what do we have? Oh, all of a sudden sexuality can be interchanged like Legos. So, okay, well, first, people are like, well, if, I'm kind of down for whatever anyway, so I could just pick this and be this much more different, you know what I mean? Or I could pick this and be this much more different, right? And then now we have people that I almost guarantee you that it's a show. It's a show. I'm going to tell you, like Dylan Mulvaney, that guy is an actor. I think he is playing the role of his life right now. And I think a lot of y'all are suckers for his B-rated show that he's putting on. I think that's what it is. I have yet to see this dude with a partner, right? Maybe I'm wrong, but so 365 days of whatever them, you don't have no partner, but how old are you, bro? You know what I'm saying? Whatever it is, whatever you like, men, women, whatever. Like, are people... Has anybody been with this person, right? Like, people want to come out and talk about Andrew Tate, right? They slept with them, they did this, or they wanted to like, where are the people who have been with the Dylan Mulvaney? Where they at? one way or the other. You know what I mean? I would like to see what's going on there. So I think this dude is an actor, and I think he's selling a product and he's taking advantage, right? And that's what's making this a big issue. All of this stuff, is people taking advantage and doing and pushing the envelope.
That's
Feels
not
like
their
that
true
would
No,
be-
self.
because they're
That's
not their true
That's
self.
this like.
Thank you.
That's this way. It's
Thank you.
society has influenced everybody to
correct.
be
We
are
like,
so off
you know.
from
So when you say I can identify, I can be whatever I want. If I want to say, I'm Beyonce today, I can now
Go
just be
for it, girl.
Beyonce.
So
You
you
go,
right?
actually believe that?
I do. I kind of feel like I don't think you
Can we
believe
talk
it.
about the prompt?
Genuinely
Yeah,
believe
let's roll back.
The prompt's about
here's
men
the other-
falling behind.
Here's the other thing. Men are falling behind. Is it because of feminism, or is there socioeconomic factors that we're not looking at?
Well, how do we
because,
define
well, no.
falling
Let's
behind?
Yeah,
look.
what do you see?
It is mainly because of feminism and the left, right, and how they influence each other and work with each other. Society is not set up and designed to operate for men, right? The gear, and then men built society for women, and now the gears are turning at full steam the way that they were supposed to, the way they've been designed to do, and we're like, oh shit, men are falling behind. That's because it wasn't built for us, right? We built it, we did the work, you know what I mean? And when we started this thing, yeah, it was like it was a man's world. Women didn't have they didn't have the rights, the blah blah blah. You're absolutely right. It's because we started from cavemans and then working our way up, right? And in order for a society to function with the most amount with the least amount of knowledge possible, the least amount of organization, the least amount of if we don't have all of those things and society has to function, we got to operate at our roots, at our core. We're animals, right? So animals, man, I caveman, you cave woman, bow, whatever. Like that back in the day, that's how that started, and then from there things were built, and they were, Captain Caveman clubbed his woman, drug her back to his rock or whatever. She woke up and she said, okay, well, this isn't going to work, bro. Okay, you're big and strong, but this rock, it's going to rain, there's snow coming, whatever. And he said, oh, okay, me caveman, I go build house. You know what I mean? And then starts building the cave. Why? Because he wants to keep his woman. He clubbed her, he got her, he wants to keep her, right? So he builds the cave, right? And then comes the fire, right? And then comes the wheel. You think he needed the wheel to go out and club women? No, he didn't. He needed to build the wheel so she could push around or have him push around whatever was necessary for her, to keep. This is how the world started. This is how things operated, and now women have gotten to the point where they have I'm not going to say they have everything that they want or need or whatever, but they have everything that a man has, right? And all these things. If you want to be like, oh, women used to be in the kitchen, blah, 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 you're right. And then dishwashers came. And now I have a vacuum cleaner vacuuming my house while I'm sitting here making this video, okay? That stemmed from women doing the work and complaining, saying they don't want to do this, and men going, I need to appease my woman, let me build a vacuum cleaner. Now, I'm not saying that I don't know if a man or a woman build a vacuum cleaner, but I'm saying vacuum cleaner, dishwasher, automobiles, like freeways, you know what I mean? Like all this stuff is based off of money and society's need to make life easier for the people who require it to be easy in society, and man's need to want to appease those people, and we know who those people are. So women.
He is falling behind.
What's falling behind? So people in America, not just men, everybody is getting poor. This has nothing to do with
Well, that's
feminism.
not true.
No,
that's a mental state.
No, it's not
That's
true.
a mentality.
This is economic data. We're
I'm
falling
not getting
behind.
poor.
Well,
ourselves.
you can blame your president for that.
Okay,
And
back
the other
to the
thing is,
prompt.
what do you define as masculinity? It can be subjective
Tell
from
us,
culture to culture.
what do you define
I
masculinity
think masculinity is whatever you want it to be. It doesn't have to be this objective.
Yeah. So how do you have a conversation about whatever you want it to be? That means every person has to define it themselves, and then nobody can meet in how do you meet in the middle on something? If you don't have a general something, can we all define what a car is? Yes, we can. Okay, we know what a car is. Now, are there different types of vehicles that closely resemble cars? Sure, but all in all, there are some general rules to a car currently, right? I mean, eventually they'll fly, but currently they have wheels and they operate on the road. You know what I mean? And most of them have steering wheels, although that's going away too. So there are, yes, things change, but then all in all, there are facts. And so, will a car still be a car when it flies and doesn't have a steering wheel and it's all automated? No, probably not. I doubt we'll call them cars. We'll probably call them whatever, air something. You know what I mean? Like, but, and then we'll go back to talking about, well, I remember when cars used to have engines in them and we burned, gasoline and blah, 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 right? Like, so you have to have a definition for certain things, at least a roundabout definition that everybody can agree on, and then you can expound off of that.
Objective
How-
thing where it's like, oh, you're masculine, you're
How
not.
is
Like,
it, can it,
so it could be different from our society to another society. And actually, in some countries, like men who don't provide for their families or are not the sole provider are not seen
but
as
are we
masculine.
talking about other countries or
Oh, and I'm just going to say this guy's woman makes more money than him, right? And we could just tell. I mean, look at how he's sitting in his chair. He's a buff dude, but he's like hunched over, like the hunchback. Like
we're talking about the
But
U.S.
even
right now?
actually, even here, there are people who will say that's demasculating for a man to make less money than his wife.
I appreciate everything everyone's saying. I do want to talk about the prompt. When I heard the prompt and I heard that, I thought about men falling behind, I thought more like mental health, like suicide is more common
Oh, we're
with
gonna
men.
go here.
No,
Love
but it's
this one.
true. Like men
But it's such a
commit suicide
and
at
it's not
higher
a cop
rates.
out. Like I'm not saying mental health isn't an issue. That it is an issue, and obviously a lot of men are experiencing a lot of pressure.
Have you heard like the term death of despair?
Men are committing suicide more. Men are
Right.
dying from alcohol-related illnesses more, and they're also dying from drug abuse and drug overdose more.
Correct.
And that's an increasing trend.
Yeah. So, why do you think that trend is increasing? What if this is a change that is happening, right? And this change is happening over this period of time. Aren't you going to have to look at that period of time and say, okay, what other changes have been made? What other changes have happened in that period of time that coincide with that could potentially and probably have a major impact on that situation, right? And is it men being raised weaker and weaker and weaker with no masculine roles in the household? I mean, we have the highest number of single parent, single mother houses that, it's just going up and up and up, right? The removal of the father from the household, right? The destruction of the nuclear family, right? These things coincide in the timeline of men's mental health, right? And it's not just men's mental health, it's women's mental health too, right? Women are on the most antidepressants they've ever been on in life. Like, and I mean, is that because they're more easily accessible? Like maybe, but I would venture to say that doesn't, that doesn't paint the entire picture, right? You gotta have that, you gotta have the want and the reason to take it. And remember, okay, these structures are set up for women, right? Psychology, the therapy stuff, medical studies, right? All this stuff, all the money is a lot of it, and the attention and the time is focused towards women. Why? Because women are the highest spenders in the economy, right? Somebody learned this when they brought women out of the home and into the workforce. They were like, "Oh my God, we hit the lotto," right? Because men being gone gave them the perfect opportunity to bring women into the workforce, saying, "Hey, come on, girls, let's go to war too, whatever, do your thing, blah, blah, blah." Don't get me wrong, a lot of women have always worked, but in general, coming into that workforce, right? And then they start seeing money being spent. They start seeing taxes getting, withdrawn from checks, right? And then it's easy. You just watch the records and you're like, what is money being spent on? Okay, well, men, for this entire time, a good portion has been spent on this, whether it be housing, whether it be transportation, education, food, resources, blah, 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 blah. Like they could tell you what the percentages were for the years and leading up to women coming into the workforce. And then as soon as women come into the workforce, those numbers change drastically. Like, oh my God, so much more money is being spent in these areas. Before it was X percent. Why? Because it was X percent of his income that went towards the family that she could use on these certain things, right? But now that she has her own income, the percentage that is spent on that item, on these particular categories, is way up. is way up. Oh my goodness, right? Now these industries start booming. You know what I mean? So, anyways, the point is mental health starts at home. It starts with your upbringing. It starts with your parents. It starts with who you are surrounded with on a day to day. You could go to the worst, crappiest school in the world. And if you have parents that are paying attention, who are active, who are, with you day in and day out, talking to you, part of your life, that are leading you in all these different paths, helping you to navigate through the craziness, right? It is craziness, the craziness that some of the stuff is going on. If you have good, strong family foundation to be able to do that, then you are less likely. I'm not saying that it's guaranteed, but you are less likely to have these issues that you're talking about, especially when you're talking about men and men having a masculine figure, right? A dad who took charge of his household, brings, goes out, earns the money, brings it in, treats his wife with respect and love, cherishes his family, cherishes the unit that they're creating. You know what I mean? When you have this masculine, strong, positive figure in the house, and he is participating in the upbringing of this boy, then you are more than likely going to have a strong, compassionate, honorable, whatever, masculine figure who comes out of that, right? I'm not saying it's 100%, but it's more likely than if he's not there at all. If the masculine figure is not there at all, what are the chances? How else is it going to happen? It can't happen with a coach. It can't happen with your priest or your rabbi or whatever. They don't have enough time and influence in your life. It's whatever is there day in, day out. That is what is going to shape, in large part, who it is, how you become.
In society.
Yeah.
And then you
That's
see
true.
educational
That is
gaps.
true.
No, there's no denying that. Like, young men are abandoning colleges at a rapid
Yeah, it's a
rate.
lot of
They're
pressure.
not
to be a
built
man.
for
They're
us.
also
Like,
far
They're not
lonelier
built
than
for
women,
men.
you
Yep.
know.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
that's
women
what
are the
we're
least
Hold on,
happy.
can I finish my point? Sorry.
Yeah, it's like the first time.
I'm
Tori's
like,
talking.
don't let me lose my train of thought. They're abandoning colleges. Women make up, they enroll in college at a 60% rate. Women are earning more than men nowadays, right? So,
I
Yeah,
don't agree
well,
with
no, that
Not
is
hold on,
true.
hold on,
really.
hold on.
can
Get
get
it
them.
up.
It's about-
That's the stat. You can disagree with facts all you want, but that is the case, right? Women are earning more than men. He wants to think of it like there's a wage gap. Okay, there's not a wage gap in totality. There might be certain situations where women don't quite get to the same level of pay, or it takes longer, or they have to work harder to get to the same level of pay as a male counterpart in the same position. That still exists in certain areas, for sure. But in total, in totality, in a whole, the wage gap is a myth. And women are out earning men because this is just natural, because more women are going to college, more women are graduating, so more women are coming out and getting those higher end earning jobs, as well as we don't promote trades, right, that could potentially be higher earning in these these positions as well, right? Like you own your electrical company or plumbing company or HVAC or whatever, you know what I'm saying, that you do. Like, yeah, you could be making 150, 200K. Like, I just went and visited a dude. We bought some dogs off this older couple. They were probably in their 70s or something like that. Dude was retired. He owned his own electric company, kind of out in the cut, maybe 2 hours from me. When I pulled up, they had I don't even know how many acres their property was. It must have been 50 or so. And their house looked like it was like 4 stories tall. But when you went in, it was just all ceiling. Like, it wasn't like there were a bunch of floors. It was all ceiling. They couldn't walk upstairs if they wanted to because they were definitely older. Everything was tile and marble and blah, 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 right? And when I pulled up, okay, there were 16 Mercedes-Benz brand new, fully vinyl wrapped and everything, electric vans, right, out there, that I assume were, fully stocked with all the crap. And there were like 3 big ass like buildings on the property as well that you could tell was his business, and they were retired, man. They were selling puppies for fun. So you know, you can make bank. You can make bank off of the trades, but it's not sexy. It's not promoted, right? That's not. And so again, women are making on average more than men because they are now coming out of college with the degrees and they're getting the jobs that are, you know, that those degrees are required for.
About enrollment. So are they having other jobs? Yeah, probably.
Sure.
But I'm saying like men are not going to these institutions. Why?
When you're saying lack of enrollment, there's more entrepreneurials in the entrepreneurial space than ever before in history. So I believe a lot of people are opting out of college as we had to pursue their venture. So that could be part
and
of.
I mean, paying 200 grand for you know, a degree in something that ain't gonna get you a job is crazy. It's crazy bananas. But we sell that to women. We sell that to women. So nowadays, if you talk to a woman in her 30s, you ask her, "Oh, you been to college?" She'll tell you she probably got a couple degrees. You know what I mean? She take a bachelor's to a master's, no problem. She working on her PhD, right? Like this is not an abnormal thing, but men, not a lot of men are following that same kind of path because it's not built for us, right?
The reason why the enrollment has declined.
Can I just go back to a point that you said really quick?
Yeah,
where
go
you
ahead.
talked about
Yeah.
like the mental health of men and how
Me?
the
Yeah, yeah.
stigmatization of men addressing their mental health.
Yeah.
What system are we in that
Sure.
makes it so that men have this big stigma around our mental health where we can't
Yeah.
talk about it and the suicide rate goes
So
up?
I'll
We
tell-
are in a
Let's go
patriarchal
with the
system.
patriarchy.
Hold on, let me
That
tell you,
is
let me
the-
tell you.
Those
So
are
the
those are the
way-
bounds we are within currently.
There's a lot
That's
of
toxic
Can I have
masculinity.
Mason complete his point? I'll encourage you to let the other person finish the point, and then, of course, you can take it forward, but let them talk.
Just
Same
real quick,
thing.
the systemic structures we are in
Yes.
are patriarchy. That is what has caused men to have this massive stigma around mental health,
Sure.
where we don't feel empowered to reach out. Men tend to not go to therapy. That leads to suicide.
Men more often than not don't need therapy. Men who need therapy tend to be men who were brought up without a masculine, strong, positive role model in life because they end up in situations and they don't know how to navigate those situations, or those situations just wreck them. You know what I mean? Be it socially, you know, being able to deal with women, because that whole thing is crazy nowadays for young men, right? Whether it's relationships in their older life, you know, like divorce or child custody, or, you know, these kind of things, right? Like those navigating separations and stuff are crazy, you know what I mean? Like it's back in the day, the only real thing that men didn't know how to navigate and needed to talk about was PTSD, right? Like up until we went to war, we could pretty much handle most things, and we knew what was expected of us, and it was okay. And then coming back from war, missing limbs, seeing brothers die, you know, barely making it out alive or whatever, you know, having shell shock, having Agent Orange, you know, like whatever, all these things, right? These are traumas that have influenced and affected men, and so these things have masculinity can't just navigate your way out of that. You know what I mean? This is heavy shit, right? But today, that's not the problem we have. As a matter of fact, most men in society today haven't seen anything like that, don't know anything like that, don't understand war, don't understand what it is to lose your brothers in that kind of situation, they don't care about their country, they don't have respect for where we've come from. Like, we're in a whole new era of how men are raised, and those men, right, these men who haven't had these strong figures to look up to see, to watch go through struggle and have odds, be at odds, and to work through those, and to see how men process those things and behave. Those men are the men who are, you know, they just get up to here with whatever the craziness is, and then they react. Right? They react emotionally. They can't control their emotions, right? And then that's when you get, you know, people who are doing crazy stuff at schools or whatever, you know.
Suicide that leads to all of these big things. That's not caused by feminism. That was happening well before the
So,
feminist
hold
movement
on.
came into these
Let
new
him
waves.
finish. there's a lot of psychiatrists, psychologists, and economists, professors, all these people coming out saying that the actual psychology department is feminized.
Exactly.
I know.
No,
It's,
I'm
yeah,
processing
yeah, yeah.
Exactly. Female tools used to fix female problems. That's what that system is, right? Female tools, right? Designed and focused based off of how females process problems, right? There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying that's what it is. And then you're trying to put males through that system and expecting the same outcome. And that system is not designed for men. You know what I mean? Like you can see too, real PTSD programs that have success or whatever. They're not just like it's not just a therapy session, right? It's reliving, it is learning and processing, not just through talking, but through actions of development as well, right?
What you're saying.
The psychology
It's weird,
department?
but the way that everything's processed
Oh,
is
this is
for
interesting.
women.
Okay.
So women
So between 1995 and 2015, the number of women within the academic psychology workforce more than doubled, an increase of 126% in 20 years. 120. So you more than doubled the number of women inside of this whole department of study. This whole area of the way that like part of a system. You know what I mean? The system of process. And you're gonna tell me that system, the answers that you got, the way that it operates, all of that is not meant and focused for women. You can't have a group that's mainly women build something for men. That doesn't make any sense. They don't even know. Most women have no idea what the man's struggle is, and they don't even give a damn, to be completely honest, which is fine. But the point is that if you want something to help men, if you want to help men with men's struggles, then you have to have something that is built by men for men, right? Like you because men understand the problem. That's the only way you're going to come up with the solution. I'm not saying that women can't participate or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying you can't have the whole thing can't be women. You know what I mean? It can't be an increase of 126% in 20 years and you expect the results to be positive. They're not, it won't work that way.
I mean, and men process information differently. Men are like this in their brain. Women are, it's all over. And like, what the hell does that mean?
Well, it's
It
left
means
brain, right
that
brain.
When you
I wish it was
process
that
like
simple.
men need to solve
It's
the problem.
pretty damn simple. You can classify it as being that damn simple. Like yeah, there are some nuances or whatever, but we think very differently. Men tend to be linear, women are spaghetti. Like it is what it is. And most men will tell you this. I mean, most women may or may not agree, but most men who deal with women, okay, who deal with women will tell you this.
Before they can process the emotion.
Women are
Women
emotional.
react
My
on
wing
emotion.
woman.
all
Yeah,
the
that's
time.
it.
But so women have a tendency, not a tendency, they do better with talk therapy. That doesn't always work for men. Men do better when they are kind of working with a coach or somebody that's going to be like, this is what you have to do, and then come
Like
back
massive
see how you
action
did.
That's why
steps.
mentors
So-
work. That's why men need.
He had a thought.
100%. Show me what to do and show me that it works and it's easy to follow. And that's why Andrew Tate is such a big influence. You know, shout out to him and his brother. I'm glad they're at home. House arrest or not. Good for you guys. But the point is they are out there not just talking, but they're walking the walk. Okay. And so men can latch onto something. They can latch onto something tangible and say, okay, if I follow this recipe, then I can not necessarily get the same results, but I can see where the achievements can come in, right? The results can come in and I can play into that. I can see that there is proof in the pudding. You know what I mean? Whereas, you know, the sitting around talking about it, most like I know some therapists, right? Like I've seen some, I've seen some in the professional setting. Like I have family members, you know, I'm not going to get into the deets or whatever, but I know some, right? And these are like it's like when you were, I don't know, back when I was back at school, you know what I mean, you're going to college and you're looking at these professors and stuff. It's really difficult to look at them and say I'm going to listen to this person when you can watch them finish an 8-hour day, 9-10 hour day, get paid nothing, and then walk into the same parking lot you're parking at and hop into their Honda Odyssey or whatever and drive home to their apartment and their dog. Like that is not inspiration to listen to what this person is talking about. That you are not showing me the proof is not in the, you know, the proof is in the pudding. You're not showing me that, right? And so a lot of men, they gravitate towards results that I can see, something that is tangible, you know?
Though, can we let him finish his
So,
thought?
the same problems with the military, a lot of the suicide rate. Even though there is therapy services, they're actually actively discouraged. And it's because of this masculine energy in the military, because it is still, even to this day, a very ultra masculine institution. And there's these negative energies saying like, hey, no, you shouldn't like go talk. That's what these fucking do.
But that's
But-
toxic
Well, it's
masculinity.
interesting
Yes,
Well, actually,
but it
That's
comes
not
from
patriarchy.
it comes from a
There's
place
a difference.
it comes from a place where it's like, oh, that's not what men do. Just suck it up and push on, and that's why a lot of these guys end up killing themselves.
But what branch were you in? Can I ask?
I was in the army.
Okay. So you're an athlete, correct?
I was in the army. Did you see that? Like, what do you mean, bro? What happened to you, man? Yo, whatever happened? Who was in the army, dog? Like, yo, what? Where? Like, how long were you in there? What happened? And what army were you in? Like, I'm so confused right now because look, man, I grew up a army brat. Okay, I was in the Navy, stationed on multiple bases and on aircraft carriers. The bases I was stationed on, half of the bases I shared the base with Marines, and half of them I shared the base with Air Force. Now, granted, there is a little bit of a difference between the Army, Marines, Navy, and then the Air Force, okay? The Air Force, we're just going to put them out here, all right? But the Army, Marines, and the Navy, all right, you got to go through some shit. You got to go through some shit just to make it poppin', at least when I was in, okay? It might be different now. It probably is. They've changed a lot of this stuff, but you had to go through some shit. And then when you got there, you were going through shit regularly. Man, I used to get punked in my division, right? Like there was all kinds of drama that would happen, you know what I mean? Like and then, you know, if you were low man on a totem pole, you were always running, and they would send you, man. Like I remember they would send me when I first got to my division or whatever, they send me clear across the base for 35 feet of flight line. Man, I would feel so dumb. They'd be like, yeah, I need you to go down to the, to the front, whatever counter that was on the other side of the freaking shit and ask them for the ID-10T form. Okay. The ID-10T form. And you're like, yeah, sure. No problem, man. Like there's little things like that. You know what I'm saying? They would call it hazing now or whatever. But like, these are all things that like, they toughen up your skin and they build a rapport. Because you know what? Those same people who clowned me a little when I got there, you know what I mean? One, were standing next to me while we was clowning the next people later on down the road. But anytime the shit went off, boom, 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 clockwork. Everybody had each other's back. Everybody was on it. Go, go, go. What you need? You need this help? Get this. Okay, I got this. Everybody's moving in a unit. All right, we knew what our jobs were. We knew how to perform it. Everybody had each other's back, and everybody could count on each other. And then afterwards, we have a beer and a laugh, man. Like military, real shit, man. I think that shit is gone now.
Correct. And in the military, what is in the military that makes everything work within the military? It's a structure, right?
Yes, it's a structure.
It's a system, right? Who runs the military? Who is at the very top of the command?
Oh, the commander-in-chief, the
Correct.
president of the United States. A couple hundred years.
But I'm making a point here. So there's one person at the very top. Even if you take the commander-in-chief away, there's your general, right? Then there's lieutenant general, there's corporal, and I forget don't hate me, there's all those privates, et cetera. There's a system. One person is at the top of that system, and he has supporting members underneath him, all the way down to private. And that's what patriarchy was, quote, patriarchy was designed. It's a system of one person taking a leadership position, and they make decisions for the greater good, utilitarianism of all, meaning the family unit.
That's not really what
That-
patriarchy
And
means.
actually, that's
It
that's
is,
a
I
very
looked-
That's actually exactly the definition of patriarchy. You can look it up. The difference is that you replace president with father or male head of household, right? Like that's the only difference, right? And so that the difference obviously between a patriarchy and a matriarchy is you would replace that with female head of household. So in our case, and in all the cases that have been since the beginning, right? The president has been a male, has been a man, head of state, head of government, right? So technically, that governing body is a patriarchy, right? And if Michelle Obama would become president, right, I think technically speaking, that would turn it into a matriarchy, right? Because it would be a female-led situation. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong in the definition, or my interpretation of the definition. But that's what it is. It is the male, the father or the male head of household, right, leading the remaining down.
Looked up the definition,
That's actually a very
I
ideal
literally
one.
looked it up yesterday.
I feel
No, you're
I
good.
feel like
I got
I really
lost.
need the male feminists also to respond because I feel like they've spoken 20%.
What I think is funny is a lot of these male feminists are beta bobs, right? Because remember, this girl right here, I was saying she probably got more masculinity than all four of these guys. You know what I mean? And it shows just by that quote right there, continuing to be like, oh, yeah, let her talk. Oh, yeah, let her talk. You know what I mean? Instead of being like, and get some bass in your voice, boy or boyish.
Once they're done with their thought, feel free to interrupt, but let them finish a sentence.
Okay, I want to talk. I'm gonna talk. I mean, I do think men are falling
I gotta
behind.
make a
I
statement.
feel like the world is
I'm gonna talk.
just changing in a way where men don't have like a natural place to fit in, or it's not as intuitive as it used to
Are
be.
you
And I
trans?
think men are alone. I heard you throw out
See,
the word
that's-
loneliness.
I
and
can't tell.
That does feel true.
don't know.
I just don't think that feminism did that. I just think like the world is changing.
What you said really resonated with me when we define falling behind. What I think about with men is that high suicide rate, that likeliness and proclivity towards violence and aggression. I think about loneliness and not being in relationships with which young men are struggling with a lot right now. And where I feel finding common ground and feminism does get right in a sense is that we should expand our horizons as far as how we view masculinity. Men should be able to cry, they should be able to be vulnerable, and that's something that we need to access. But also, these men who are feeling disillusioned with the world right now, they are seeking out male figures. We've seen, the rise of the Jordan Petersons or some of the personalities at the Daily Wire or the Andrew Tates. They are seeking out somebody who's telling them, I want you to access those masculine traits and harness them in a way. I would say Jordan Peterson's probably a more healthy role model for men than, say, an Andrew Tate, but men are going towards these more aggressive, masculinized traits and seeking out men that are trying to harness that for them.
Yeah.
I thought you made a really great point that I totally agree with, where men are looking for these role models of how to embody masculinity because we are falling behind and a lot of people don't know how to act. What's really important, and what I've seen, at least in my experience, like feminism bring up, is the idea of like Justin Baldoni doing his talk about being man enough for your woman, being man enough to be emotional, being man enough to support children. That's the type.
I don't know who that guy is, so I can't really comment on what he said. But what I'll say about the whole being masculine enough to be emotional, being man enough to be emotional, and being man enough to, did he say raise your kids? I mean, I 100% believe that fathers should absolutely play a huge role in their child's life. You should be involved in their education. You should know exactly what they're being taught at schools. You should participate. You should absolutely be involved with them in their after school activities. You should encourage them, for various different things, right? And find the things that they gel with, that they gravitate to, and encourage that and support them in all those ways and endeavors. I don't believe working 80 hours and having somebody else raise your kid is conducive to raising a child that is going to have whatever your morals are, whatever your morals and values and standings, whatever you believe. If you want your child to believe those things or to carry on those things, it can't happen if you're working 80 hours a week, right? It's not possible. Somebody else is raising your kid at that point, be it the mother or anybody else, right? And so you have to participate. And I think we have a lot of people now who are old enough to have a voice who were not raised by fathers, be it either because their father were not in the home at all, or because he was basically just funding a family, right? He was just working to fund the family. Like, I believe that is a huge issue that we're dealing with now.
Type of manliness and masculinity, I think, needs to be embodied so that men can catch up and feel like there's a place for them. That's something that we need to focus on, is making sure that people know how to embody masculinity in a way that's going to be beneficial for everyone.
I 100% agree with that. However, I don't believe that a woman is the one who's going to make that happen. You know what I mean? Like, I believe we need strong male figures to raise strong boys into strong men, period. Only men know our struggles. Only men know what it's like to go through life as a man and how to deal with problems. Only masculine men know this. Men who are raised without fathers, without these role models, unless they have gotten this information from somewhere else, unless they manage to learn it through life on accident, you know what I mean? Like, whatever it is, the men who don't have that, I believe, are just as capable, or it's just as possible for them to raise men who have these same issues, right? Like, if you're just not there, I think about like them interviewing, family members of like mass shooters or something like that, and they're just like, oh, he was a weird one, but we just thought that it was, he was just a growing through this spurt, or we didn't know that he was like. That's because you weren't there. That's because you weren't participating. Maybe you came home, sat down, and watched TV, ate Cheetos, like, while he was, whatever he was doing, whatever he was going through. When he started changing his hair color to just straight dyed black and putting on eyeshadow, and started listening to weird music, and started reclusing, or never came out of his room because he playing video games for 12 hours. Like, didn't exercise, didn't participate in school sports, didn't participate in any kind of social activities. You never saw him with a girlfriend. Like a kid going through life like this, right, has no guidance. And if a kid has no guidance, be it man or woman, that is a recipe for disaster. Hey, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. If you agree or not, I don't know. We're gonna go ahead and get on some a couple other parts of these, man. Watch them. If you like them, cool. If you don't, hey, I'm sorry, man. I'm just trying. Hey, man, things to talk about, man. Torsia, I wish she would say more in these videos. Let's see. Maybe she will towards the end. All right, now.